Hey guys, this is Gabe Dimmick from the Baseball Rebellion, and for this week's swing breakdown, we're going to take a look at Chris Seise, who is a high school draft pick from the Texas Rangers, picked in the first round. And before we get into his swing, I want to let you guys see his swing both in full speed and then also in slow motion. All right, so now that you guys have seen his swing, let's take a look at it a little bit more in depth. And one of the reasons I picked Chris Seise to look at today is that when compared to a lot of the other first round picks that I saw from a hitting standpoint, I thought that he moved with an athleticism and allowed himself to set himself up for a very high ceiling as a professional hitter. So a lot of the guys that I saw, obviously they're talented guys if you're getting picked in the top couple of rounds, but their swings were more for lack of a better term, very college. They looked like they were trying to just kind of flip the ball up the middle, get base hits, get a lot of singles, but they didn't look like they were trying to do damage with their swings. And so, there were a few guys that were in there, some of which we'd already broken down, and so I didn't want to do those again. And so, wanted to try to find somebody new that we haven't shown you before, who was swinging with an aggression and obviously a very good technique as well, that could play long term. Now, Size has a pretty good frame. He's 6'2", could grow another inch or two, just given that he's only a high school guy, and he's 175 pounds, so he's gonna definitely fill out a lot more as a shortstop. So he's definitely got a good frame. I think that overall, he could end up being 205, 210, 220, something like that as he grows into his body. And then if he maintains his swing, he's going to be in great shape. So excited to see him in his career. So let's take a look at the swing now. One of my favorite things about Chris Size is just how early he starts. So I love videos where you can see the pitcher. So you can see the pitcher's getting started. He's getting ready to throw, and you can see Size's foot is already starting to come off the ground, and he's at the top of his leg lift before the ball has even left the pitcher's hand. And so I think that is a big key, and something I've been talking to hitters a lot about is make sure you start early enough to where you're giving yourself time to do your movements. So a lot of guys start too late, and then they're rushed into very quick strides and defensive swings, where he starts really early, gets to the top of his lift, and he's ready to roll. Now, the way that he does that, watch how his head, as he loads his hips and he lifts his leg, his head stays back, and so that's going to allow him to, even if he does start too early, he can delay. If you start too late, there's no turbo button to gain that speed back or gain that time back. So I think it's really important that guys keep their head back as they do this lifting and loading motion, and then they're going to read the pitch and be able to plan their attack. So watch this back hip where his back batting gloves would be if he had batting gloves in his pocket. Watch his back leg. He's going to really load it toward the pitcher. As he does that, he's going to let his shoulders roll in slightly. He kind of presets a little bit of an inward shoulder turn, which I like as long as he can see forward with his eyes. And you're going to see this back elbow really pull back early. So that's a really good move. Think about it like an uppercut from a boxer or somebody getting ready to throw an uppercut. He really loads well, loads powerfully, and gives himself a chance to do damage. Now, as that pitch is being released and he's reading it, he does a great job of letting his hips slide forward. So you can see his back leg lengthening out. You can see his back hip moving, staying loaded, but moving away from, you can see this cursor right here. You're going to see his back hip move away from the cursor on his back hip. And again, that back leg's lengthening out, but he's still loaded. You can still see this back pocket. His foot's pretty close to the ground. Back pocket, back leg are still loaded up with his shoulders, and he's reading the pitch in. Now, as he decides to swing, um, he's going to be able to get a lot of depth into his turn. So one of the main reasons for that is that separation he created front to back. So his hips have really gone forward while his head stayed more back in his body. So his head's behind his belly button, which creates space behind him to really accelerate the barrel down towards the catcher behind him. And so he does that with a tilting of his shoulders. So his shoulders tilt more than they turn at the very beginning, while his back leg and his back hip start to turn. So he gets a nice tilt into it, so that gets his bat accelerating down toward the catcher, and now he's going to turn up. So his bat starts coming up behind his knee, so that creates a lot of acceleration, a lot of depth deep in the zone, which is a huge goal for all of our hitters. And you're going to see, again, him turn the barrel now upward through the ball. He's going to hit the bottom half of the ball. The ball is going to get way out of there. But again, all of this was really set up by a great start, by the hips getting forward. He pulls back early, which sets his bat up to kind of tip in front of his head a little bit, which gives his barrel more room to accelerate. And then he's going to just turn through it. So he loads well, so therefore he's going to unload well. He really doesn't try to push his hands. He really turns the knob, or turns the barrel around the knob, so that the circle of his barrel is very tight. So his hands stay high and tight to his body. The barrel makes a very tight circle back behind the ball, in front of the catcher's mitt, coming up through it, and that ball is absolutely launched. So when you swing like this, when you set up a swing like this, the actual go part of it is pretty easy, because he's so powerful in the way that he moved before. We can't really see his feet a ton, but looks like he's landing in fair territory with his front side. You can see his back leg turning open, so that tells me his heel is probably up right here where we would want it. We just can't see that. And then it looks like he's pulled. You can see his back foot being pulled forward by the hip thrust as he delivers that final blow up through the ball. And this is a guy who I think is going to have a bright future hopefully in the major leagues. Because again, he has a very high ceiling based on his technique and the way that he swings. I think from a draft perspective, or a scouting perspective, you don't, especially in the higher rounds, I don't think you want the guy that, his ceiling is a 250 hitter with 6 home runs and a few doubles. Like, that's not the guy you want, because not everybody's going to make it to the major leagues. You want to have high ceiling potential guys early in the draft, and I think that the Rangers did a great job of scouting Chris Seise here, and they made a good pick. Like I said, some of the other picks that I saw, guys who looked like they were trying to flip singles and doubles, and didn't really have a powerful mindset. And I think that's going to run out for most of those guys. So hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown and Chris Seise's swing. I'm excited to see him play as he goes through his career, and we wish him all the best. Thanks, guys.